Hey guys, what is up, and I welcome each and every one of you to a new League of Legends video. So it's been a while since we made the last list of champions that are the strongest or the FREELO or the must pick or ban champions for the current patch, so it's finally time to bring it back and talk about the champions that are just simply the strongest at the very moment and the ones that you should really watch out for and be happy to either have on your team or be a little bit scared to have on the enemy team. As usual, this video will be made in collaboration with ProGuides, a very familiar name, a website that tries to improve your overall League of Legends gameplay and knowledge. I have a link to them down below in the description below. Definitely recommend checking them out and trying out their free trial. But without much further ado, let's get right into the FREELO champions of this current patch. So starting things off, and what I think is going to be probably the most kind of OP or FREELO champion currently, it's going to be Malzahar, but specifically in the support role. This guy sort of out of nowhere just became very popular down in the bot lane as a support, and for good reason. The amount of pressure that he can provide with his E ability with his Voidlings is almost unmatched. His ultimate is also just insanely good when it comes to 2v2ing, because all you have to do is just press R on one target and they're just sitting there and your ADC is whacking away at them for free. And you also build pretty much just straight AP on this champion as well, so he's going to be dishing out a lot of damage later on in the game as the game just continues to snowball and snowball and snowball to the point where you're essentially going to be having a second AP mid laner. But overall, just the utility he provides with his CC on his ultimate, the slow with his rallies, the amount of damage the Voidlings can do, the pushing potential as well, and how fast he can get the tower. There's just so many great things about him, and trust me, you should definitely ban him, because if people start picking him up in whatever elo you happen to be at, it's gonna be a very rough ride, unless of course he's on your team. So here's how the build can look like for support Malzahar. Now the thing that might throw you off is the fact that you actually go Thunderlords rather than Deathfire Touch, just for that extra lane pressure. But other than that, you still want to get the Sightstone, because at the end of the day you are still a support, but then you just transition into the raw AP items, and at the very end of the game, once you have all of your items, you can sell the Sightstone and you can get something like a Morellonomicon or something similar. But other than this should be quite self-explanatory. Trust me, it's very strong. Next up, following Malzahar, we also have Ziggs right behind him, also being a very strong pick in the current patch. So not only is Ziggs in the mid lane considered to be very strong because of the amount of pressure that he can provide, the amount of poke, and just the scalability he has overall in his kit, the AoE damage, and most importantly, the amount of damage he can do to towers, but he's also just as, if not even maybe more effective down in the bot lane in the ADC role, still being built as an AP champion. Now I made a video specifically talking about why he's just so effective down in the bot lane replacing an ADC, but the TLDR of that is essentially he provides the damage that is required to win the lane early rather than waiting for the ADC to actually finally scale. He's able to destroy towers probably just as fast, if not even faster than ADCs, and he just provides really good wave clear. But the only bad thing is the fact that he doesn't provide consistent reliable damage, since his abilities are at the end of the day all skill shots. But the point is, Ziggs in the bot lane is extremely strong, and in the mid lane as well, so the fact that he's a flex pick and can go in one of two roles makes him even stronger, so you probably want to either ban him or pick him up for your team. Taking a very quick look at the build, you definitely want the Thunderlords, you want a fairly similar or standard AP page, and you want to go for items such as Morellonomicon for the CDR, Luden's Echo for that extra poke damage, Lichbane to synergize with your passive to just annihilate towers, and then you can top it off with the combination of Void Staff, Zhonya's Hourglass, and your Rabadons. But let's move down the list and go all the way up to the top lane and talk about Camille, the newest champion in League of Legends. Camille has been quite notorious for just how strong she really is ever since her release, and even though she did recently get some slight nerfs, they really weren't the biggest thing in the entire world, because still at the end of the day, her ultimate has essentially no counterplay almost, her E ability has probably one of the best gap close ranges I have seen in quite a long time, and she has fantastic dueling potential. All in all, she's exactly what you want from a bruiser or assassin-y combination type champion, very similar to that of Aurelia, Fiora, or even Riven, but she provides immense mobility, and this is where she really shines. But to make everything just that much better, on top of her just being a very strong champion and her kit is arguably somewhat overloaded, she's insanely fun to play, so it's almost like a win-win scenario. So with all of that being said and done, let's take a quick look at Camille's build. You're going to want to spec into that fervor of battle because you want to synergize with her overall kit and how it works and her ultimate, and getting something like a Triforce combined with a Hydra is very effective, and then following it up with some tanky items, maybe like a Sterix Gauge, a Deadman's Plate, maybe even a Speared Visage, maybe a Randuin's Omen, Guardian's Angel. Essentially, you just have to build depending on what you're facing, just something that's defensive. But just having a Triforce and a Hydra should be more than enough to give you the damage and mobility and overall the kind of dueling or assassination power that you want and be successful at it. But let us leave the top lane for just a bit and move our way to the jungle, where as usual, there's definitely some OP FREELO champions waiting to be talked about. The first of which has to be Hecarim. I mean, this guy has been strong for how many patches now? I can't even count. The fact that he's still this strong and the fact that I would honestly go to say that he might even be the best jungler at the very moment is a little bit ridiculous. He is still the exact same as he was several patches ago, and nothing has been changed. You still go Triforce, you still go Cinderhulk, and you still just go pure tank after that. You're insanely strong, you have great gap close, you do an insane amount of damage, and I mean, it's just very hard to stop. He's got some decent wave clear with the jungle as well. He's able to gank quite effectively thanks to the E-dash he has and his ultimate being a gap closer. And all in all, I mean, I just absolutely despise facing Hecarims. I don't know how many games I've lost to Hecarim getting fed and just being just completely disgustingly strong and just impossible to deal with. So if you're looking to pick up a jungler that is very strong right now and probably going to be strong for several patches to come since he still hasn't received a big nerf, Hecarim is a pretty good option. Taking a very quick look at his build, you want to go ahead and run tanky items, Cinderhulk, Triforce, and pure tank after that. Courage of the Colossus is perfect with your ultimate because it gives you that insane tankiness whenever you engage, because all you really need is the Triforce for the damage and everything else just comes together. You just need to survive and soak up as much damage as possible and you are good to go. But staying in the jungle for just a bit more, we have to talk about the big green blob monster himself, Zac. This is one of my personal go-to bans because I've also lost many games to Zac since he just essentially builds pure tank, but he still somehow just manages to do a lot of damage to the backline and he can engage from about half of the map, and it's just really awkward to face, really difficult to play around, and he just feels a lot stronger than he should be when building pure tank. So all in all, a champion that just can do a lot of damage while going pure tank and having one of the best engages in the game in my honest opinion, it's kind of a problem, and it's very strong. So without question, in my personal opinion, I highly recommend banning him or picking him up for yourself, for your team or whatever, and just hoping he's not on the enemy team and it's a player that actually understands how to play him. But taking a quick look at the build, it's a very similar one to Hecarim as well, because what you do is you still go for the Cinderhulk, you still go for the pure tanks like a Spirit Visage, maybe a Deadman's, maybe a Randuin's, your boots of choice, and you just go raw tank stats. It's kind of insane that you can just do this and still do that much damage, but it is what it is. That's just how Zac currently works, so you should abuse it while you can. But the last champion I want to talk about specifically in the jungle is also going to be Lee Sin. Now, Lee Sin got nerfed this patch, and it was actually a pretty decent nerf, I have to say, to the point where I thought Lee Sin might definitely fall out of flavor and not just be that strong anymore. But apparently that's not the case. I'm still seeing this champion almost every single where, or at least almost every single game I play, and he is still insanely obnoxious. He still has that crazy early game pressure, he's still able to insect, he's still able to make a lot of plays, his damage is still almost pretty much there. It doesn't feel like the damage fell off that much. And for the most part, the Blind Monk is still just as obnoxious as ever. Now, granted, you do have to kind of have, a certain level of skill to play him successfully, but if you do, this guy can without question hard carry games. Just like the other two junglers, I've lost many games to Lee Sin's just outputting so much pressure in the early game that one of the lanes, or maybe even two of them, gets so ahead that it almost feels impossible to win because they're just so damn strong. And against a very skilled Lee Sin player, it's very difficult to match the amount of jungle pressure he can provide early on into the game. But taking a quick look at the build, you want to go for Thunderlords because, well, you are playing Lee Sin. You want to go for that damage and you want to get that extra power in the early game. For your items, you want to go for the Warrior Enchantment with the jungle item that gives you the extra wards. Black Cleaver is also quite good. If you're really ahead, you can go Tiamat, Deadman's Plate, Guardian's Angel, and then some kind of maybe MR item. But all in all, Lee Sin has always and will probably continue being a top-notch jungler up until he really takes a big hit. But the final champion I want to discuss right before I jump into two very quick honorable mentions is going to be in the mid lane, LeBlanc. LeBlanc has been quite strong recently, and I have to say she's been putting out a lot of pressure throughout the whole game now. The new LeBlanc is really good. She can do a lot of really crazy things, and her laning phase is still just as strong as ever, to the point where landing her E ability will be more than enough to make someone want to burn their flash. But the point is, now LeBlanc, especially if you decide to go for Lich Bane, has this really cool playstyle where you go in, you put in a little bit of damage, you go out, and then in just 3 seconds, you go in again, you put in a little bit of damage, a little bit of CC, and you just keep going back and forth, and it's very strong and effective, but Granted, it can be a little bit difficult to pull off successfully. But this champion is definitely getting banned quite frequently, and whenever she doesn't get banned, it's not uncommon to see her being picked, again, just because of how much pressure she can provide in the laning phase, her roaming potential, her overall damage, and the fact that now she's actually quite good in late game as well. So in terms of building LeBlanc, you want to do it as follows. Thunderlords without question you still want to get, Morale Namicon, maybe Luden Zeka if you're ahead, Rabadon's Void Staff, Zhonya's Hourglass, more or less the basic stuff, but if you really want to, you can replace one of them, maybe like Luden Zeka or something, with instead a Lich Bane, and this playstyle is a little bit different, but it is very effective, and I highly recommend trying it out at least once. Now, right before I end off the video, there are two very quick honorable mentions that I want to discuss, the first of which being Ryze. Now, the reason he's in the honorable mentions spot is because, well, he is fairly difficult to play. Now, if you're very skilled with him, he can do insanely disgusting things in the mid lane, but at the end of the day, if you have no idea what you're doing, or if you're just very mediocre, he can also be extremely useless and just misplayed heavily. But I do feel like Ryze is one of those champions that can be just insanely strong and just absolutely ridiculous. The second honorable mention I want to discuss is gonna be Kalista down in the bottom lane. The reason for this is because, well, she just recently got buffed, and I have to say I've started to see the champion more and more, and she is feeling very strong. I still feel like she has one of the best ultimates an ADC can ask for, and even a support. She can do a lot of damage, her laning pressure has just simply increased based on the recent buffs, and I feel like Kalista is going to be making a return and a comeback. So I just want to bring her up in the honorable mentions list as a champion to watch out for. But other than that, boys and girls, that is about it for this video. There you have it, the FREELO or the OP best champions for the current patch that you should watch out for and you should probably ban. If you guys enjoyed this video or found it useful or whatever, then make sure to let me know by hitting that like button. Make sure to share this with your friends, subscribe if you haven't, but I hope you guys did enjoy it, and I hope to see you for the next video. Peace.